A case that was once sort of dormant, it's alive again in front of Judge Xinis in Maryland in the Abrego Garcia matter. As I've said before, there's no more powerful judge than a federal judge. There's no more powerful judge than a judge who's been affirmed by the United States Supreme Court 9-0. And now we've got a series of things happening in that courtroom with fast orders. There's about 5 different developments on the docket that I want to bring together and synthesize for you right here on Legal AF. We got the press, the media, banging down the door of Judge Xinis to get all of those sealed and redacted filings by the parties, unsealed and unredacted, so they could report on it. I mean, it's one sealed filing after another. And there are rules about what can be sealed and what can be unsealed, because the bias is in favor of transparency, a public docket. The public has a seat at the table of our public justice system, plain and simple. And so we've got ABC and all the other news media trying to get that. And the judge is setting a hearing on it. But buried in an order that the judge granted or issued about a prior sealed motion that I couldn't read, nobody could read. We know what that motion was about. It was about the Trump administration once again asserting state secret privilege that they're not going to tell the court or anybody else what they're doing, if anything, to get Abrego Garcia back from El Salvador, despite the Supreme Court's ruling about it. Talk about pressing a losing hand and chasing a loss. That's what the Trump administration is doing. And Judge Xinis is taking control of it all. There's a couple of new pieces of paper that are out there I want to bring together for you right here on Legal AF. Judge Xinis is doing a masterful job presiding over and administering the justice against Abrego Garcia in Maryland. She's affirmed by 2 Fourth Circuit Courts of Appeal panels, 9-0 by the United States Supreme Court, based on her ruling that the Trump administration needed to immediately facilitate the release of Abrego Garcia from a jail in El Salvador, because he shouldn't have been sent there over a court order that prevented him from being deported to El Salvador. Now, the Trump administration has been playing games for the last several weeks. Well, we think that means we just have to take down barriers domestically. Like if he breaks out of prison and shows up, we'll let him in. No, that's not the ruling. In fact, they know that's not the ruling because about 2 weeks ago, in a filing that we got our hands on, they declared that they are working diplomatic channels. Well, apparently, Donald Trump is so powerless or feckless that there's no diplomatic channel, there's no phone he can pick up to get Abrego Garcia back. He's scared of Bukele, the petty dictator of El Salvador. We're being ass-kicked by El Salvador under the Trump administration, or he's lying about it. He's lying because he doesn't want to pick up the phone. In fact, we know from the clips that we've played about Donald Trump's recent interviews, and those went terribly for the administration, where he got challenged by Kristen Welker, he got challenged by Terry Moran on ABC. Terry Moran was like even more blunt. He was in the Oval Office. He looked over and there was a phone. He said, "There's a phone. Bukele's got a phone. You all got phones. Pick up the phone and call him." "Oh, I could do that, Terry, but I don't want to do that. And he's a criminal and he's got tattoos on his fingers," which was a lie. Kristen Welker said, "Can you call?" I could call and get him back. Well, that's news to lots of different judges, starting with Judge Boasberg, who's handling a matter about 250 people that aren't named Abrego Garcia that are rotting in the El Salvador prison. And he had a hearing yesterday that I reported on where he was like, "I thought the president said he could pick up the phone and drop a dime and get the guy back." Well, I said that statement was going to be used in the courtrooms of Judge Xinis and Judge Boasberg, and they have been. So Zenis, who's handling the fundamentals of the Abrego Garcia matter, she's trying to figure out whether the Trump administration is in contempt or not, whether they have in contumacious disregard for her order and flouting her order and are openly disobeying that of the United States Supreme Court. To get to the bottom of it, she's letting the lawyers for the plaintiff, who's Abrego Garcia, who, by the way, side note, one of the major law firms that's representing Abrego Garcia is Donald Trump's just recently fired law firm that had represented the Trump organization as its ethics counsel. Follow this story. Trump's own ethics lawyer got canned because Donald Trump ordered his sons to fire them because he jumped off sides and represented Harvard and represented Abrego Garcia. So we got that going for us. So they're filing lots of papers. A lot of it is getting sealed. Somebody's filing motions to seal so the public can't see it. So when I go on the docket or you go on the docket, it says docket entry 168 or 112. It'll list it, but then it'll say sealed and I can't click it and get it. And that's what's pissing the media off. So in one of those sealed motions that was filed by the Trump administration, they're trying to figure out whether what they did with Boasberg is going to work with Zenis, which is throw up a roadblock of state secret privilege, which is, this is so sensitive and goes to the state secrets that we can't reveal it. Otherwise, we'd blow the state secret in our diplomacy, or we'd blow national security or undermine diplomacy or whatever. It is not, when you look at the privilege, which is not on the books, it's not a statutory privilege, it's made up by case law, doesn't apply in this scenario. They tried it with Boasberg, and Boasberg said, I don't see the state secret privilege. But then he had an issue with the case at the Supreme Court and sort of got tabled. Here, she's like, all right, here's how I even know that I can even report on the attempted invocation of the state secret privilege. She says, in her order, which is not sealed. See, this is the problem with sealing. You get the sealed stuff, and then you get the unsealed stuff that refers to the sealed stuff. Just unseal it all. That's what the media is arguing to the judge. The judge says the court requires formal briefing of the defendants, that's the Trump administration's, invocation of privilege, principally the state secrets and deliberative process privileges, as discussed in their filing at docket number 112, which has been sealed. Accordingly, by Monday, this Monday, the party shall submit simultaneous briefs not to exceed 25 pages. So she's not going to let somebody get the last word. They both have to simultaneously submit briefs on Monday. Now, she doesn't give a time. So if you really wanted to game it a little bit, you sort of file late, like 11:59 p.m., and then get a look at the other person's filing. But she says she wants simultaneous briefs. So that what it normally means is lawyers who are ethical and professional call each other and coordinate a time to simultaneously file. The court's ordered simultaneous filing. What time do you want to file? 5 p.m. Okay, we'll hit the send button, the upload button at 5 p.m. Okay. Including plaintiff's request for the court to conduct an in-camera review of the withheld documents. In other words, they've asserted privilege over certain documents. They won't turn them over to the other side. So the plaintiffs are asking the judge to take a look at it, what we call in-camera, meaning only she gets to see them, and then make a determination from that. And she's going to bring that to a head on the 12th of May during a hearing. She's going to hold another hearing later in the week, next week, Friday, May 16th, about the matters raised in that. So she wants a hearing. She wants the briefs on the 12th. Then she wants a hearing on the briefs and the state privilege issue, state secrets issue on the 16th. Then, as it relates to the issues, she's going to reset the deadlines for discovery after she reads all of it. And then lastly, she says, listen, I've got all of the motions to seal and unseal, and I'm going to deal with them as well in a separate order because I think the judge sees the attempt by the Trump administration, particularly to seal things, is a way to hide, it's not any surprise, hide from the public their filings. So I think she leans, and the law makes her lean in favor of unsealing. And I think that's what's going to happen. And then separately, we've got, with a lot of redaction again, see, that's where the sealing comes in. I mean, look, for those that are listening to this on YouTube or watching this on YouTube, what am I supposed to make of this? How am I supposed to analyze this for you? It literally has one line. It has black at the top. This is about the need for more depositions by the plaintiff wants to take of the Trump administration to support their motion for contempt. And all I can tell you about page 5 is that in the middle, it clearly says, as to steps anticipated in the future to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return, and then another black flag. What am I supposed to do with that? And that's the media's point, It makes my job very hard. Although I'm creative, and I've been doing this a long time. So I can fill in the blanks like the best of them. And I'm glad you're here with the best of them, because you're on Legal AF. We're covering all things Zenis, all things Boasberg. 3 other judges have already declared that the Alien Enemies Act is unconstitutional as used and triggered by Donald Trump. Got Judge Xinis in Colorado. We got Judge Alvin Hellerstein in New York, Judge Rodriguez in Texas. Every time a judge looks at the Alien Enemies Act, they come away with the same conclusion. Donald Trump has illegally invoked it. And this came up, I'll leave it on this. This came up in the Boasberg hearing, which also happened in the last 24 hours, in which Jeb Boasberg, the chief judge of D.C., he looked at the lawyers for the Department of Justice and he said, in effect, is your client being told that it doesn't look like your client, Donald Trump's being told the truth about the Supreme Court decisions against him? And the judge and the Department of Justice lawyers like, excuse me? Says, I don't think I think the rulings are being misrepresented. He gave an example. He said, in this own case, the court did not rule, Supreme Court 6-3, did not rule that Boasberg was wrong, did not rule that he didn't have, that due process wasn't required with notice for people who were being deported and removed to El Salvador or other places. And nor did they rule on the substance of the Alien Enemies Act, that the Alien Enemies Act was properly invoked by Donald Trump. They didn't block its use for now, subject to a full appellate record and rulings being made. That's different. That's much different, for instance, than making a ruling that it's fine. They left it to the individual courts handling habeas corpus petitions to make the ultimate ruling there. And so that's what the courts are doing. Those 3 courts, almost 4 courts in total, including 2 that are Trump-appointed judges, ruling against Donald Trump in the Alien Enemies Act. This has been a terrible week for Donald Trump when it comes to his illegal acts related to deportation and lack of notice and due process. From his interviews to the court rulings to appeals, going after graduate students in college, that's not going well. Appellate courts are ruling against him. He hasn't won yet. He's barely won. He thinks the 6-3 decision against Boasberg is a win, and it's not. And it's certainly the 7-2 decision against him, which ruled that he can't fly anybody else out to El Salvador, which is why we don't hear about that anymore, because the Supreme Court grounded the plane 7-2, at least temporarily, but they haven't lifted the stay. And 9-0 saying that Judge Xinis was right to require the facilitation of the return of Abrego Garcia to the United States for due process purposes. I'll continue to follow it all right here. Your due process here on Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button. Come on over to Legal AF, the Substack, where I'm posting all of these court filings so that you can read them for yourself as well, along with my morning briefing we call Morning AF. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.